Yeah, and I don't honestly know what a good intro would be for this, man. I was trying to think of that last night. No one knows us. It's not like I don't even know how you're supposed to introduce this kind of thing. So it feels super self-aggrandizing to be like, well, I'm Derek and this is Jordan. And we're just gonna talk. But
yeah, I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters. It's we are two guys in a sea of 7 billion now.
yeah, well, that's kind of one of the things I was thinking about going to bed last night. If of all the times to start a podcast, it seems like a great time, and I'm sure lots of other people had that same thought. And so now it's honestly probably not a great time, but this allows me to connect with you in a much more personal way than what we could do through like Call of Duty. This allows me to kind of have those conversations that I miss having when you lived in Amarillo.
Right. Well, initially when we were working together, I would come by your cube and whisper to you if you could even hear me, but I would just kind of pick your brain about, hey, this is an issue in my life, or this is an issue in the mainstream. What do you think about this? Or just deeper conversations I wasn't getting at work or with my own friend group. So it's been nice.
Right.
Nice
well, you offer a unique perspective that I've respected. I've brought this up with you, but it's nice to have someone that, I see you as a very driven individual. I see you as a very creative guy. So if I have problems, I can respect the opinion that you bring to the table. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say, oh gosh, I wish I thought of that. You come at things from a different angle than I do. And I hope I come at things a little bit differently than you do, so that those opinions can kind of complement each other,
Absolutely. No, I always rely on you, and just assume you've done your due research, which I assume you do with everything you do, because you do everything with passion, another level of passion that most people don't even hit, or even grades. So if you say, yeah, this is the alcohol that you need to get, I'm all in. I just assume, and it's way better than what I would have stumbled along through.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. I appreciate that. Let's talk about the alcohol. So you went and you picked up kind of your basic bar because you just moved. You just went down to Dallas and you needed your first setup of, hey, after coronavirus is over and I have people over, what's in my bar? So talk about what I sent you. I'm going to see if I can pull up the list because I don't remember everything.
It's going to be I have my phone here. It's going to look crude.
Let's pull that up. And just while you're pulling that up, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what we wanted to do with this podcast and kind of what I pitched you last night. So, a big thing that you and I mentioned when discussing a podcast was that we wanted to add value. And I thought, what kind of value do we possibly have to bring into the world? And I don't know that it's something that comes from a point of education, but rather kind of a joint experience of stumbling through early adulthood together.
Yeah.
And, you are, you're now 26, I'm 32. And I call that kind of the Zach Braff age, where it's the character he's played in pretty much any movie he's ever been in. But a young adult stumbling through, figuring out, like, how do I date now? How do I live now? What is it like to pay a mortgage? What is it like to have a grown-up job for the first time? And what do those mean about me? Because there's a lot of self-discovery that happens between, in my opinion, between like 24 and your mid-30s, where that shapes your trajectory kind of for the rest of your life. The path is narrow a great deal.
Yeah, you're right. It is that trajectory. Let's say you have it just on a simple graph and your correlation goes up. I mean, you're still in that launching phase, I think, for the, I don't know, we'll hope 80, 90 years, 100 years, who knows? But yeah, you're right. It's a good way to look at it. But yeah, that Zach Braff reference, I only know him in Scrubs. That's the only, I think, I've seen him. Yeah, I love Scrubs. Scrubs is good. It kind of has that, like, gives you that taste of morality every episode, what you need to take away. And I don't know, what have you seen him in? What is he good in?
I think it was called The Last Kiss. I really enjoyed. it's the front cover, I think, is him sitting against this girl's door. It's a sad movie. The more Zach Braff, Garden State, obviously I loved, and that had early. Was it Natalie Portman or the girl that looks like Natalie Portman? I think it was Natalie Portman.
It looks like Natalie Portman.
They're like interchangeable. Here, I'm gonna look it up real quick because I can't think of it off the top of my head.
You're talking about the Star Wars?
Yeah.
Amidala?
Yeah, because they both played in that. Actress that looks like Natalie Portman, Keira Knightley, but it wasn't Keira Knightley. It was Natalie Portman. But Garden State for me was one of the most formative movies as far as early film watching, early just getting into do I like these directors, do I like these actors, like trying to figure out what your tastes are. I feel like Garden State shaped a lot of what I enjoy now. You know.
Yeah.
It's quirky. Seen it?
He is very quirky. No, I haven't seen it.
We have to get you watching Garden State. You also haven't seen Fight Club, and I screwed up and I didn't show it to you before you left.
That's all right. It'll come. It'll come in the right time. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to force that issue. What were we? So you thought about having that Zach Braff-esque feel to this, stumbling through life, learning about yourself. And he does embody that character, almost like Michael Cera embodies, awkward, whatever he is.
Yes. He is every awkward person. He is every social anxiety you've ever had bundled into human.
Yeah, just neatly packed.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, just take a step kind of back and what we wanted to do with Connection and me moving down here and getting that bar set. It's more of I wanted to improve myself, add value to myself, and I think that's what we've been going back and forth on. What can we improve? How can we flesh ourselves out to make ourselves more interesting people? I'm following your lead here because you're an interesting guy. You have tons of skills, but a wide array of shit that you're interested in. So I
appreciate that. I feel it's uncomfortable getting boosted. It is.
And this isn't a podcast just for each other.
that's what this podcast really is. It's just us trying to get those egos back up. I appreciate you saying that. You and I have had a conversation about this. I feel like so much of my life has been spent trying to impress girls, and so anything that may even kind of seem interesting about me has really been in the pursuit of just trying to make a girl think that I'm interesting. And I don't know that I think that's a really bad thing. I don't think that's a good thing at all. So part of what I wanted to kind of flesh out over the course of us talking about a lot of different things, that these different pieces of growing up, is how I can eventually shift my understanding or my personal development away from defining myself through the people that find me attractive, and instead define myself through the things that I think are attractive, things that I think are interesting. And I think I'm doing that right now. I think I'm if Corona has given us anything, it's given us space from people in order to self-evaluate.
Yeah, for sure. And this next month, I want to try to read more. It's a goal I've been having. I really haven't taken full advantage of the quarantine time. I don't know if you have or not. You're a busy man working.
What are you wanting to read? Let's talk about that. I want to hear your reading list.
Okay, I just want to get really back into reading, so I may have to kickstart it with some back into Harry Potter. But I have shit just sitting around here like Sir Conan Arthur Doyle. Is that his name? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah.
Sherlock series. Yeah, it just has my grandpa gave me just a book of the classics, the Harvard classics, and then Sherlock. So I want to get back into that. And I love Sherlock. The series Sherlock on Netflix, love it. So that'd be an easy way to get me back into reading. And I want to read, 12 Rules of Life. I want to finish that by Jordan Peterson. I want to pick up The Alchemist. Is that the one you recommended?
Great book. Yes, Alchemist was Alchemist was as far as anytime that you've heard me talk about something that I'm passionate or excited about, I'm generally in the back of my head thinking about there's a part of The Alchemist that is I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but it talks about if you pursue something with passion, the universe helps you achieve it. The entire universe helps you achieve that passion because you are pursuing it with all of yourself.
Wow. That's good. Yeah, I need to read that. And I'll stop there. There's a ton on my backlog that my grandpa just kind of gave me out of those classics. Meditations that you're doing with Marcus Aurelius is on that list. But
So
there's just haven't even done them yet, so I don't want to talk about it anymore.
no, I want to talk about meditation briefly though. The best thing that I've done for mine and my daughter's kind of bedtime routine and honestly setting her up, I believe, for more success in school is reading meditations, and the particular translation that we have, I'll see if I can find it and I'll post a link to it. But the translation that we have is separated out into almost like verses. So you can almost look at it like the Bible. And so what I'll do is I'll take one of those chunks of text, read it, and then I ask her, hey, what did that mean? Because the language is dense. The language is old. It's a heavy book. But I think a lot of people underestimate young children. They underestimate the ability they have to understand general concepts. And she has impressed the hell out of me every single time we piece those apart because she can drill down in a way that, wow, I can't as easily. She drills down into the core concept of whatever he's talking about. So he may use, 100 words to talk about, like, be nice to someone. And Hazel can take that and turn it into, well, Kane stole my ball the other day, but it's okay. I have to still keep doing my thing. I still have to. That's a stoic look at someone stealing your ball. It's crazy to hear a 7-year-old talk about stoic philosophy.
Amazing. You're gonna have a smart ass kid. That's basically what that boils down to. Do you think those frameworks are embedded in humans? I mean, to where she can just recognize it, pick it up, run with it, and she can say it in her own words. So that would be a framework that we can all kind of identify with each other.
I like that way of thinking about it. And yes, I do. I think we are all born with certain innate understandings. It's a basic. I don't even know if you could call it a moral code. It's a human code where you understand certain things to be true, and so when you're presented with them, your brain doesn't have a hard time wrapping around it. The same way, like, mathematical concepts, I would say, are perhaps the most true science, but they're kind of hard to wrap your head around because they feel abstract when you're talking about it. It's more difficult for our brains to get that. But these type of human to human interactions, those are very basic communication type concepts, I think are much easier for most people to grasp.
Yeah, no, I like that when you said moral code of it, because I think instinct is too general of a term. I think instinct you can toss in like tired, hungry. I think that's too umbrella term for that in a scenario. But no, that's cool. That's a really good way to look at it. Shoot, sounds like she's gonna go through that. What is the other one? Seneca? Is that?
I want to get Seneca. I don't own it yet. That was one I think I tried to grab it whenever we were at Barnes & Noble looking for that book, and I don't know if they had it. So I need to pick that up, but it's referenced in all of the, there's a group of books right now that are kind of getting popular, and I talked to you a little bit about this, but largely what they're doing is they're summarizing what these Stoic philosophy books were talking about and giving what I would say is like a modernized understanding of those things. And so I thought, cut out the middleman, and if I can go straight to the source, that's a great way to digest that content.
No, Stoicism is huge right now, and you can just see it by the subreddit and its growth in size. I don't know the exact stat on it. I'd love to get it sometime. Just the growth from 2012 to now. But do you think that's because there are 7 billion personalities, 7 billion people who are posting, and 7 billion lives to keep up with, and you have to keep those things out of your control to maintain your own state of being, whatever it is?
Well, you and I have spoken about this in the past. My favorite phrase that you've ever said to me was, "I don't think we're built to know this many people." I think keeping up with the social media, and I think keeping up with so many people from middle school, high school, college, and on has grown our tribe to a point that it is much, much harder to maintain that stoic attitude. And so referring to those teachings and reminding ourselves of, your value and your worth is no different if you die today versus if you die 80 years from now, as long as you're constantly in pursuit of a goal. That's such a cool thing to remind yourself of, because a lot of times I am using a metric of whoever I'm comparing myself against, on Instagram as a photographer or as a videographer. I'm comparing myself on Facebook to other parents, and instead you need to kind of be comparing yourself against the metric that you set for yourself. Am I doing everything that I can to chase that goal? Am I doing everything I can to achieve that goal? And if so, if I die tomorrow, it's fine.
Yeah. So quick Jordan Peterson rant. It's just applicable to almost any situation. Dunbar's number. So Dunbar's number, just a quick overhead, crude, very rudimentary understanding from a dummy like me. 150 is the number that Dunbar says is our links as a human that we can understand and keep up with personal relationships, or our boundaries or our parameters, we'll say. And that obviously varies by brain size. You can handle 200, probably, we'll say, if you have a larger brain, 100 if you can't. But that number it was easy when we didn't have social media, when we weren't as connected, because your local hierarchy was your small town, your work, your family, a couple friends. So you could place yourself easily within that hierarchy. Now that the hierarchy is blown out to the whole 7 billion population, we're having a tough time placing yourself within that 7 billion hierarchy. And like you said, you're a part of a photography group. That's a micro hierarchy, we'll call it, that you're putting yourself over here, but you're also in a parent hierarchy over here, comparing yourself in all these different hierarchies. But that drive that you're talking about, that goal that you have to set is innately in us to get on top of the hierarchy. And when that hierarchy is too many people, it's just, you're never going to get to the top. When it's too small, it's not worth getting to the top 4. There's nothing out of it. So we're trying to find that balance, I think, of where do we fit in the hierarchy. Yeah, I think everybody's trying to do that.
I like that too, because I think it also kind of touches on how difficult it is for us as humans to conceptualize numbers. As we get too big, I can't imagine being the best out of 1,000 people. But 100 makes it a lot easier to say, like, that's a goal. That's something I can work towards. Whereas the other feels almost overwhelming. It feels mind crippling, in the sense that when you don't want to roll out of bed in the morning, kind of feeling.
Yeah. Where's your aim at 7 billion? I keep saying 7 billion people. It's the total population, I guess, of the world right now. But when you roll out of bed, where do you set your arrow, your aim? At 100 people, you can see John over there, looks good, Rolls Royce, whatever. You can see John. That's a goal. That's a whatever your goal. You can fit anybody in it. But 7 million people on social media or whatever, that's a much harder target to set, I think, and that's a lot of people's angst.
It is, and it's something I kind of talked to you a little bit about yesterday when I was talking about this podcast, or talking about what I wanted to kind of accomplish moving forward. I don't believe in small goals anymore, and I think there are small goals as steps on the way to a larger goal. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's important. I think that's part of it. But I think setting small goals is robbing yourself of a larger part of the human experience. So that, especially right now, what has kind of refocused me is saying, I have scraped together a bunch of things within my own business, and then everything stops economically, and all the places close, and I stop making money for a couple of months. Had I aimed any lower, I would be miserable right now. But the fact that I'm trying my best at all times, like trying my best to push forward in so many random different things that excite me, I think is an important part of feeling okay when things crash. Because if you're running at 110% towards whatever it is that you're interested in, then even if it fails, you never have yourself to blame at the end of that. You never have something to look back on with any sort of regret. And that's what I'm talking about. So when you're talking about comparing yourself against the 7 billion, 8.5 billion people in the planet right now, I think the goal should be always the best at whatever it is that you do.
Yeah, that's a little. I'm not going to disagree here. Maybe I'll meet you halfway. A big goal is a good thing to have. Short goals, I think, let's rephrase it as milestones that you can keep up with to that bigger goal. Because I think if you just have one big goal and you look at it every day, and you wake up and you're like, oh shit, I'm nowhere near that. If you have small incremental milestones, I'm not a brain scientist. This could be absolutely a terrible understanding of it, but I've read that your dopaminergic system turns on when you set a goal and achieve a goal and surpass the goal. So if you have these smaller goals towards your bigger goal, it keeps you driving. It keeps that motivation. So one big goal, I think I would stray away from just personally. You may be really good at it, and I know you're really good at it, and you're really good at self-starting yourself. You have your own small business that you're just doing by yourself. So that may be a different mindset you have to be in. But for me, small incremental would be better.
Not to interrupt there at all. I agree with you 100%. I think what I'm saying is I think too many times people trade off those small goals instead of chasing the big goal. I think the small goals should be seen as steps. They should not be seen as the goal itself. So I'm going to give a bad example here, but if I want to learn how to make cookies, and this was something that I wanted to do over the last, you were there for a chunk of it, but I spent like 3 years trying to figure out how to make the best chocolate chip cookie I can make. The best chocolate chip cookie I make is thank you. The best chocolate chip cookie I can make is the goal. But the steps leading up to that is I've never made cookies. So I have to start with what does Reddit think is the best recipe? And I make that recipe, and now that was a step. But if I stop there, and that's what I'm talking about, I don't want to stop at that initial goal of now I've made chocolate chip cookies, and this is what Reddit says is the best chocolate chip cookie recipe, so it must be good enough. I think the key to being self-satisfied in life or to being happy with what you have done in life is taking that first step, and instead of saying like this was good, it can be a great chocolate chip cookie. The next step is saying, who else thinks they have a good chocolate chip cookie recipe? And I don't know how many chocolate chip cookie recipes I made over the course of that period of time that I was trying to learn chocolate chip cookies. And I found one that was the best, not in the world, not in Reddit, not in whatever. It was the best to me. And so there's this feeling of I've accomplished a goal that I am stoked on, and I'm still tweaking. I'm still changing things. I'm still working on that. But I was able to figure out that longitudinal goal in 3 years, but set those tiny steps in between them.
Well, doing it with intention and being able to speak on it like that, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. I think that's what makes you interesting. That you know exactly the process, you know exactly what doesn't work, what does work for other people. I think that's cool. So cool that you can talk on that. It's a fucking cookie, but it's so cool that you perfected your own recipe at it. But yeah, go ahead.
So I want to talk about that though, because you are by far the most educated person I know on sports right now. So like if I have a question about basketball players, or I have a question about anything that I'm not catching a reference to that someone said, Jordan's the first guy I'm going to hit up. And I think it's cool that anyone takes something that is a passion or something that they're excited about, and then becomes really good at it, good enough at it that someone else can use them as a touchstone to what is this. So in using the stupid cookie example, I hope that I am someone that my friends who have tried the chocolate chip cookies are able to come to and be like, yo, I need to know if this is a bad chocolate chip cookie recipe, or I need to know if this, that's a dumb way to look at it. But even on something as insubstantial as cookies, if you can become something of an expert, you are adding value to other people's lives in a big, substantial way, I think.
Yeah, it's your local expert that you can lean on. You can't talk to the best chef. I can't talk to Gordon Ramsay every day. I'm going to go to the next best thing in my life, Derek Porterfield.
Well, and here's what I want to say. Like, we mentioned basketball. I remember coming to you because I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Jordan versus Kobe thing. I heard people at the gym bring up, Michael Jordan is better than Kobe, and if he was in his prime when Kobe was in his prime or whatever, and they went head to head, Jordan would win. And I had nothing of value to add to that conversation at all. Yeah. So I was able to come to you, and your take is Kobe, right?
So I think the comparison you're looking at is Jordan LeBron.
LeBron, yeah. Sorry, not Kobe. See, I'm bad at sports.
No, I get it. Yeah, LeBron is definitely my pick on that. Just a one-on-one perspective. I think there are too many arguments that you can make on both sides and frame it however you want to whatever your personal preferences. I think that's why it's such a big argument, because you can make cases for both sides and people get tribal about it. My opinion is that LeBron is the bigger, better athlete in a more modern, fast-paced game. I think that's the higher level over it. We may get into it another time, but I think that's my opinion on that. But it doesn't. It speaks to the fact that now there are so many local experts on sports, not so many on cookies. So it's more valuable that you have that opinion than just me yelling to the void of Sports Center, ESPN, and all your friends.
I disagree with the value, and I think it is. In fact, I would even argue that there's probably more value in knowing more about sports. Like me mixing up Kobe and LeBron is not a good look. It's something that also limits me whenever it comes to generalized conversation, which I think is something that is perhaps more important. You're a great guy at a party. You're a guy that makes people feel comfortable. You're a guy that makes people. I describe you to other people as immediately like you are a very approachable, charismatic kind of guy, and I like that. I think part of your strength comes from your eclectic knowledge of a lot of different things. You're able to talk about pretty much anything, man. I think that's great. So I think the knowledge of basketball and having a well-formed opinion on something as innocuous as because it doesn't matter. It doesn't. Jordan versus LeBron does not matter. But being able to have a conversation. What's that?
It'll never be solved. So it's like, what are we doing?
No. But I think that's the larger part of most conversation, especially at parties, is these strange, meaningless discussions that help to establish who you are and what you are passionate about, what you like, and where your education falls within certain I would call it genres of conversation. So I think it is important, and I think I spent a huge chunk of my life sloughing that part off, kind of eschewing those types of things as unimportant, and instead focusing on the boring academia side of things, or the boring like this makes me money kind of things. And I think that was largely to my detriment socially.
Okay, that's a different perspective I have. Was it because of the content of, let's say, sports under the substructure of social, we'll say social interaction, because you were socially interactive in other ways? Not so. I mean, you're a super social guy. You meet. I see you run into people you've met 10 years ago, and they still know your name. They still know something that you did that impacted their life. So you have social components to you that are astounding, but may not just be in the mainstream social thing at the moment.
I think the people that you may be talking about, largely I shifted when I started doing contract work, contract labor, and I was going out to businesses, and I had to be charismatic. I had to be someone that was easy to talk to, because that's how I made money. And I'd go in and I would say, hey, I've got to fix this guy's computer, but while it's broken, he has to like it. And so you kind of learn how to talk about anything. But before that, I was and hell, even now to a certain extent, I valued myself, or I had a value proposition as a hipster, as a person that if it was popular, I hated it. And I think that hurt me. And that's kind of what I'm talking about is I spent so much of my life, a huge chunk of it. If it was popular music, I hated it. If it was popular sports, I hated it. And defining yourself through hate, I think it's folly.
Yeah, I could agree with that. But let's not run away from you needed to identify with something. I mean, everybody needs to identify with something. I identified with an athlete. Could you say that I missed out by not identifying as something else and getting a part of another group? When we're so young, or I guess that's getting a little too deep. But when we're in high school or we're in middle school, we want to be someone. We want to identify with a group of people. It's called being socialized. It's how you make friends. It's how you interact with the world. So you need to be a part of those groups. Sure, you can flesh out a little bit and go into let's say you go to a sports bar or I don't know, whatever you want to make the example of you going into another group. I think that's where you get your growth. Yeah, everybody needs to have a group that they have identified as.
So let me ask you this: do you think that there is I'm going to steal your term, a framework that people could apply? And we're talking during the socialization stage, where you are younger and you're trying to carve out your niche. You're trying to carve out who is your group. That framework could be applied to a large amount of people, where you say, hey, do you like? It's like the personality profile that you sent me from. I think Jordan Peterson did it, but there's a few of them out there. But if you were to take this personality profile, or you were to choose your 5 points, does that allow you to figure out, like, this is where I need to niche in? This is, for me, it was music. For you, it was sport.
For sure. Yeah, there. I think a lot of people would gain introspective perspective. Is that a phrase? Introspective perspective?
Perspective. Yeah.
So for some internal perspective on who they are and what they need to improve on, if they took a big personality course or test or just a quiz online, I'm sure most of them are relatively the same. I think the big five, and I really want to get this down, so in a later episode I'll really nail these, but I know one of the 5 is extroversion, one of them is neuroticism, one of them is openness, agreeableness, and I forget the other one. But you're on a spectrum of each of those personality distributions, and what I'm trying to aim to do is, hey, maybe I'm highly neurotic, which is a marker for people who experience more higher frequencies of emotion or more negative emotion. Maybe I can be a little less neurotic by, I don't know an example right now. It's a terrible example to start off with, but just kind of meeting more in that average of that spectrum, going up to the next personality trait, extroversion versus introversion. It's a little more easy example to talk on. Let's say I'm more introverted. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations of an extrovert that you might think they would do, to meet yourself in that middle. But I think the first initial goal would be to at least understand who the hell you are and where you line up along the spectrum of personality traits that everybody has. This is something that everybody can do, and you can honestly do it for your friend and see where they are, just to get a good idea where you, if it's true, you know who your friends are, you know how they act, you know how you are, you know how you act. Put yourself on those spectrums and just play with them.
I like that, and I want to talk more about that in the next episode. I want to wrap up this one. We're hitting time, okay. And we'll keep talking after this. This will be a 2-part episode, so if people want to, they can kind of flesh out. But I want to wrap this one up as kind of succinctly as we can. This being an introduction to Jordan and I don't ever want this to come across as Jordan and I considering ourselves expert, but rather 2 people that are struggling through hopefully the same thing that a lot of people our age are struggling through. And these discussions between us have helped each other. If we publish these out there somewhere, maybe someone else can listen to this as the guy in the next cube over, maybe at when we worked at Region 16, and overhearing these conversations can maybe help change a perspective or help give you a little bit of a direction to kind of shoot at. And in the comments and stuff, I'm hoping people will also kind of join in the conversation and expand what we're talking about as well.
Yeah, we're learning. I'm hoping we're learning as much as we're speaking, working on vocal literacy as well. And it honestly just sparks thought. I hope people listen to this and it sparks thought and conversation, meaningful conversation. Like I said, we are not experts. Anything that I speak on, and I'm just into psychology lately, listening to psychology stuff. Anything I speak on that, I'm not an expert. Most things I'm not an expert on. I am an expert on IT stuff. And that's about it. So if I speak on that, I have a relatively informed position. Anything outside of that realm, I'm not an expert. Don't take anything, take it at face level.
I dig it. So we're going to wrap up this episode, but this is going to be a continuation. So consider this the ellipses. We appreciate you listening. And the next one will be a continuation of this same conversation where we're really diving into, the 5 different traits that Jordan was talking about. We're going to look those up right now. And then we're going to kind of discuss those at a little bit greater length. I believe Jordan Peterson is the one that we're grabbing that from, but I don't think he's the originator of it. So thanks for listening, and tune in next one.